Hey everybody, and welcome to the RA2 channel. Let's take a look at this thing that I put together. I recently posted this on Twitter and people were interested to hear more about it. I'm a big fan of retro gaming, and specifically I'm a big fan of old PC games, stuff that ran on MS-DOS. And I have like a bunch of this stuff already, these mini consoles, like there's the SNES one, I have the NES Mini, and then I've also got the Sega Genesis Mini, but I've always wanted something like that, like a mini console for old PC games. And there's not really anything out there that exists like that. So I put this thing together. This is my own version, I guess you could say, of the DOS game classic mini console. So what this is a case that I found, and it actually is not just a keyboard and trackpad, but it actually is a case for a Raspberry Pi 4. It just goes right in there. You just unscrew these four screws, and let's actually take a look at it. We can do that. Let me get my trusty screwdriver. I need a little teeny tiny screwdriver for this. I should mention this case is from Vilros, by the way. That's the company that makes. They make a lot of Raspberry Pi accessories. This reset screw is a pain in the ass to get out. There we go. So there it is. That's a Raspberry Pi 4. And because this is in an enclosed thing, I went ahead and added a heatsink kit to mine. And I probably should have unplugged these before I pulled them out. But if you're not familiar with the Raspberry Pi, it's a single board computer that can run things like RetroPie, which is a thing that lets you emulate console games, but I don't need that because, like I said, I have all those mini consoles. But it also runs an operating system called Raspbian, which is like a Linux-based operating system for this. And then people build all kinds of custom operating system builds for this. And I found one called Dosbian. And that's actually what I'm running on here. You just download a copy of it, and I'll put a link down in the description below. And then you use like SD card writing software to write the image and put it on a mini SD card, which you can see right there, and pop it into your Raspberry Pi. And what that does is it makes this boot straight to DOS. Now it is emulation. It's actually a version of DOSBox that it's running, but it boots right to that, and it kind of boots up like an old. And what it's actually meant to emulate is like a 486 DX, like 66 megahertz system with like 16 megs of RAM, and it emulates Sound Blaster sound and all that good stuff. Whoops, I nicked the camera there. I will demonstrate all that once we get this button down and put back together again. Let me go ahead and unplug them. This is the monitor cable. This case also comes with a little fan that you plug into the GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi, and you can either run it at 3 volts or 5 volts. I run it at 3 because this fan that it came with, when you run it at 5 volts, it runs faster, but it's really loud. But I think between this running, at the slower speed and the heat sinks, it's fine. I haven't had any overheating issues or anything like that. And then you just stick the fan, just kind of goes in here in this little vent area down there. It just kind of gets held in by friction. I do have a few complaints about this case. Oh, losing a screw. It is really cool for what it is, right? So it's a Raspberry Pi case that also has a keyboard and a trackpad and everything built in, so it lets you kind of make an all-in-one computer. And I do like the form factor of it. It reminds me of the Commodore 64 a lot, and I always wanted like something that was kind of that kind of footprint, like an all-in-one like Commodore 64 type footprint that was like an MS-DOS machine. So this is the closest thing I've been able to find, is just putting this together with the Raspberry Pi and custom operating system. But yeah, it really, you just screw the Raspberry Pi in there. The Raspberry Pi ports just stick out on the side. It's got two USB 2.0, two USB 3.0, and then a network cable. But it has built-in Wi-Fi too, which I will demonstrate later because you can do something really cool with this. But I'm going to go ahead and, other complaints about this. So the keyboard doesn't get power from the Raspberry Pi, right? You actually have to put two AAA batteries in this compartment here for the keyboard, and it doesn't connect directly to the Pi, so you have to use this little wireless USB dongle thing. So really the keyboard and trackpad are like a wireless keyboard and mouse that you use this receiver with the Raspberry Pi. So it's a little bit wonky and it takes up one of the ports on the Raspberry Pi, but it's not that big of a deal. It's just, this case isn't expensive either. I should mention. I think I ordered this directly from them for like $50, and I've seen it on Amazon sometimes as low as like 30 or $40. So it's not a bad deal for what it is, and it accomplishes what I need it to accomplish. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this buttoned back up, and I'll get everything, power plugged in and everything, and then I'll show you what it can do. While I'm getting this screwed back together, one more thing I forgot to mention is that even though the Raspberry Pi is now enclosed in this, there's this little door right here that if you open it up, this little compartment, it looks like it's a battery cover, but it's not. If you open this up, it gives you access to the SD card slot on the Raspberry Pi. So you can, something else neat that you can do with this is you can kind of change up operating systems with it, right? Everything is on the SD card. So you could put in your, Dosbian SD card and run that on here, or they make Commodore 64 emulators. Oh, I'm losing a screw. Already put one there. Commodore 64 emulators, Apple II computer emulators, all those old 8-bit computers that a lot of them were kind of in a similar form factor where it was all in one with the keyboard and everything. You can get stuff to mimic those as well, and then you can easily swap out the SD card to change how this thing functions, which I think is another cool feature. Okay, now that I've got it all buttoned back up and I've got power hooked up to everything, I wanted to take a minute before we fire this thing up to talk about this monitor that I got. So this is from a brand called eYoYo, which I think I found this on Amazon, but you can get them on AliExpress and stuff as well. And it's a modern flat panel monitor, but what's really neat about it is it's 4:3 aspect ratio, and it has a bunch of different inputs. It has an HDMI input, it has AV, so the red, white, and yellow cables, and then it also has a VGA monitor input. So that thing, it's pretty versatile. It does a bunch of resolutions, and I feel like it matches this case and everything. I like the way it all looks together, especially with this phone style HDMI cable that I found. And then I also found this really neat 486 processor badge on eBay, and I liked the way it looked with it, and that's kind of what this is trying to mimic, as an old 486 computer. And then also I had to put a Wayland-Yutani case badge on it just because I feel like this kind of has a Wayland-Yutani aesthetic if you look at the computers and stuff in the Aliens movies. So I thought it would look neat on there. And then lastly, I've paired it with this wireless controller that I got from 8-Bit Do, or 8-Bit Do. And that's what this dongle is sticking out of the back on one of the USB ports. This is a really neat wireless controller, and it works really good with DOS games like Commander Keen and stuff like that. So that's kind of the whole package of my little MS-DOS game mini classic. I don't know what to call this thing yet, but it's cool. So let me go ahead and fire it up and I'll show you what it can do. I like how it mimics a DOS computer boot screen. And there it goes. It boots right into DOSBox. I love this thing, and there's so many things that I can do with this. Let's go ahead and fire up just a game real quick. Let me get the controller turned on. Now, a couple of things I'll mention too. This keyboard, not great. It's usable, it works, but that's one of the other kind of complaints I have is it's on the borderline of usable, but I've gotten used to it. And the all-in-one like 8-bit computers, from way back when, they didn't have great keyboards either, any of these things that were this kind of form factor. So I think that kind of matches the aesthetic as well, I guess, if you can say that. But let's go ahead and fire up something. Wait, what? Oh, I don't know my own directory structure. It's just keen 4 for the directory, and then keen 4E. The nice thing about this too is it kind of comes pre-configured out of the box. There isn't much you need to do with it in the way of configuration, except for like running the Raspberry Pi configuration program if you want to get the Wi-Fi working with your router, which you do because it makes it easier to transfer files back and forth over. Something I'm sure you've noticed is the lack of physical drives on this. I do have USB CD-ROM drives and USB and a USB floppy drive. I don't have to do this. Oh, button 2. There we go. I was wondering why that wasn't working. But you can plug them into the USB ports, and I've found ways to get DOSBox to kind of mount them, but not quite right yet. This is running on top of a Linux-based operating system, so it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to mounting drives and things like that. But I will figure it out eventually, and then I'll have some external drives I can hook onto this. But in the meantime, I just use a program like SCP on my Windows 10 computer to connect to this via the Wi-Fi, and then transfer files to it. Let's do a new game. Hopefully you can hear the sound there. But it does emulate AdLib and Sound Blaster sound. Forget what the buttons are for this. Okay, that's the pogo. This is one of my favorite games. See, this is the kind of stuff that I grew up playing. This was a shareware game that was available where you could get the first episode for like... How do I shoot my gun? What the heck? I know spacebar shoots the gun. I wasn't paying attention. I have to figure that out. I might need to map that. I think I might need to set the Gravis option for this. Let me look. Anyways, that's beside the point. You can see that it can run Commander Keen. Not only can it run Commander Keen, see, I love seeing those. This is the shareware I was talking about. I love seeing these old ANSI screens. So, used to be able to get games like Commander Keen, the first episode of Doom even, for like $5 to $10 at little kiosks at the mall on shareware floppy disks. And then the thing was, if you liked the game and you wanted the rest of it, the other episodes of it or whatever, you would then buy those from the publisher or the developer. But let me show you another neat trick this thing can do. It is possible to get it to run Windows. Oops, what am I doing? Windows 3.1. Which I think is another important part of the DOS experience. Let me adjust the camera here and see if I can give you guys a better view since the monitor's so little. Something else I should mention too, speaking of monitors, is to use this thing, you don't have to use this small of a monitor. This can hook up to a modern TV or anything like that, which I think is great. That makes it more versatile. But you also, to kind of run this setup, you don't even have to buy a case like I'm using. You can just get a regular old Raspberry Pi 4 case and hook your own keyboard and mouse to it and everything and use it that way as well. I've even seen little mini PC Raspberry Pi cases, so you could use something like that. You don't have to use a little monitor and this keyboard case. I just wanted it to be all mini. But yeah, it runs Windows 3.1 and it runs it really well, which means you can play all of the entertainment pack games like Jazzball. I always liked this game. Oh, that was stupid. That was dumb too. Why did I do that? Oh yeah, you can put your name in. No, I do not want to start a new game. And I've got all of the Windows Entertainment Packs installed on here, so, I've of course got, where's Ski Free? I think that's in Pack 3. Yeah, Pack 3. You've got to have Ski Free. Forget how long it takes to get the... I don't remember the buttons to play this. Oh, it's right, up that flips. Anyways. So yeah, it runs Windows 3.1 great. Whoa! Well, that's not good. So, it's Raspberry Pi. I've never had that happen before, but it doesn't surprise me that something glitched out. It is emulation. But that gives me an opportunity to show you this. So at the DOS prompt, if you type exit, you can get into this menu here, which is the Dosbian menu, and that is really small, isn't it? But what this lets you do, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. this lets you configure all the stuff to run Dosbian. Now, this is something I haven't gotten yet to work, but apparently you can get Roland MT32 support for like MIDI music in old DOS games, which I've got to figure out how to get that running. But there's actually quite a few options in here, and then also what you can do is shut down or reboot, and you can also launch the Raspy config program, which this is where you go to set up things like your Wi-Fi and general settings, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and reboot this because that was terrible. I guess running into a sound glitch, stuff like that used to happen on my family computer when I was a kid, so I guess that still kind of mimics the old school experience. But I can get a closer look at the boot screen. And now that we're back here at a DOS prompt, I should probably show that it can run this, because if I don't, people are going to ask in the comments. Gotta calibrate the gamepad. But yes, it does run Doom. And it runs it really well. Now, on a full-size PC, I would usually play this keyboard and mouse, but the trackpad on this thing is not. I mean, it's a trackpad. I don't think they're that great. They're that great ever to begin with, but this one's not particularly great. I mean, it does what it needs to do, but yeah, as you can see, it runs Doom really well. And the little speakers on this monitor actually don't sound too bad. I don't know how well it's coming across my lapel mic. Let's just finish the level. We don't need to get all the secrets. Ah, the barrel didn't kill him. Yeah, we should at least finish the level. But yes, like I said, it runs Doom really well. Didn't I say quit game? Let's see, what other games can we look at? What have I put on here? Wait, what is the command to run it? Oh, it's just wrap. I love this game. I don't know. Bob. Call sign Bob. I haven't played this in a little while, so let's do that. This is a really, really good shooter on DOS. It's not known for its shooters, but this one's really good. I love the sound effect for the machine gun. I also like that this is not a one-hit kill game. You have an energy bar on the right. It's really nice to just have a little mini computer that I can just plug in and really easily run. Shoot. Yeah, this is a fantastic game. If you haven't played Raptor, you should definitely check this out. Pretty sure it's available on like GOG.com and Steam as well if you don't want to set something up like this. That's another thing people will probably say is, why bother setting up something like this when all of the games like this are available on GOG.com or, Steam or whatever. But it's just, I have them all on GOG and Steam, but it's just not quite the same experience. Something else I wanted to show everyone that's really neat that you can do in Windows, just to show you how well this runs things. So, like I mentioned earlier, I can't get a USB CD-ROM drive to work with this yet. I know there's a way to do it, but I haven't gotten it to work yet. But what I have been able to do is just take anything that I have on CD. For example, I have a pretty decent collection of the Microsoft Home series of software for like Windows. That's things like Encarta 94, um, the Julia Childs cooking software, which I featured in a video on my main channel on the Retail Archaeology channel. So I'm able to just pop those into a modern computer and use a program to rip those to ISO. And then I can copy the ISO over here. And I've actually created a directory where I just keep some of that stuff. So for example, in that MS Home directory, I've got the Encarta 94 ISO in there. I've got the Julia Child software ISO in there. So you can mount those ISOs as a virtual drive in DOSBox, and then it will work just like the CDs in the drive. And then what I've done is I've created a batch file to run one of these so that I don't have to type out the whole mount command. So let me just show you how that works. So if I type that in now, you can see that it's mounted that ISO. Wait, what do you mean image file not found? Oh, I had changed the name of the directory. Damn it. So the batch file would have worked, but you can see that's at home, and I've changed it to MS Home. So now I'm going to have to do it manually. I'll have to update my batch file. That's embarrassing. So the way it works is there's the image mount command, and then I'm giving it D, which is the drive letter I want it to be. And then I give it the path to the ISO, which I forgot I had changed the name of the directory. Hopefully I'm typing this right. And then you want to do a -T and tell it it's an ISO. And there it's it. Now you can see it says drive D is mounted as that ISO. So now if I go back to Windows and go to here. Now how cool is that?
Hello, this is
That's
Julia Child.
maxing out the speaker a little bit.
Welcome to Home Cooking with Master Chefs. Happy cooking and bon appetit.
So if you have never checked out the Retail Archaeology channel, my main channel, you should. But I did a video on this software specifically where we cooked a recipe from this and picked up most of the ingredients at a fancy grocery store. So that was a fun video. But yeah, I can run, the MS Home CD software and stuff on this. It's really, really neat what this thing can do. All right, so I'm going to go back out of Windows. No audio glitch, good. Okay, one last thing I want to show you what this can do besides playing games is I mentioned earlier you can hook up, get this to work with your Wi-Fi so you can, transfer files and stuff back and forth on the back end really easy. But with a little bit of work in the configuration files, you can do this. So this is some software called Bananacom, which I used to use when I was a kid to dial into bulletin board systems. Believe it or not, there are still bulletin board systems running. There's a couple that are dial-up, but most of them run on the internet and they're accessible via Telnet. And it's able to get this thing to dial out, as it were, to those Telnet bulletin board systems. So right now it thinks on serial 1 that there's a modem hooked up, but it's really just a Telnet connection through the Wi-Fi. So you can, this software is pretty neat because I'm going to type stuff in manually, but it has a bunch of options. It has like a phone book and stuff so you can store these. Do I have anything? Oh, I do have something in the DAL directory. Oh, cool. So yeah, here is an old school bulletin board system on my little classic MS-DOS game mini system. I've got to think of a better name for this thing. Hopefully I do by the time I need to make a title for this video. But yeah, you can dial out, not really dial out, but you can connect to, oh, I didn't do they have a bot check and I didn't push escape quick enough. Okay, let's try this again. There we go, I pushed escape twice. So we want to see just the ANSI graphics. Oh, it is so awesome to see that stuff again. I'm going to log in real quick and then we'll jump cut because I don't want to show in case somebody figures out my login. Okay, there we go. Now I'm logged in so we can take a quick poke around this bulletin board system. And if you're not familiar with bulletin board systems, this is how we got online when I was a kid because internet service really wasn't common in households. At the beginning of my childhood when we had our first computer, so you dialed out using a modem on a landline to bulletin board systems like this, and they had message boards. You could download games. You could leave little messages and things. Man, there's a lot of stuff before you get to the menu. This one's pretty great because it's got headlines. Oh, I hit escape on accident. But you could also play games on here. For example, let me hit this. And I think the last time I did this, the menus glitched out for some reason for me. But let's see if it does it. Yeah, but I can still find a game, and I'll show you what I mean. There's still the menu. Or I guess maybe that ASCII is all supposed to be like that because the menu here still looks like it kind of works. It works enough to pick a game. But I'm going to pick Legend of the Red Dragon because I used to play this game. And it is really awesome what they're able to do with just text-based graphics. So let's go ahead and enter. And what does it say? You have never visited the realm before, would you? Oh, I must have. Oops, I escaped out of it. That's okay, because I must have did the other one the last time I played this. Because I swear I set up a character already. I like that it has different random screens, title screens. Okay, enter the realm. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, this is where I was playing. I woke up in low spirits today. That sucks. Despair covers the land. More bloody remains have been found today. Fantastic. So this is a little text-based role-playing game, and it's actually a lot of fun, even though it's text-based. And because it's on an online bulletin board system, there is, I don't know if you want to call it PvP or player versus player, but you can find other characters in the game, other people that are playing, and when they leave, if they don't stay in the inn, you can fight them and try and kill them, and you get gold and stuff. It's a fun game, and then you can do things like there's a weapon shop and everything in an armor shop. You can kind of see all that here in the menu. There's the bar that you can go to. There's a bank where you can store your money because I think when you die, I think you lose any gold that you had on you unless you put it in the bank. But you can go to the forest and fight random battles. So I'm going to look for something to kill. And what did we come across here? A rude boy. Okay. And we killed him. We got 7 gold and 3 experience. So it's just fantastic to be able to do things like this still and play games like this. I'm going to go ahead and quit out of this. Oh boy, is that messed up. I wonder why that menu is the one that's messed up. I'm going to go ahead and log off. It's always nice to disconnect properly. God, I love that art. All right, then we can exit out of that. So this thing really has become my new favorite little toy. It's a lot of fun to play with, and it has most of the functionality that I would want out of a little miniature DOS classic, gaming console. I like being able to do everything from the command prompt. You don't have to do it that way. Dosbian comes with a menu that you can set up to launch games and things from a menu, and it still looks, I think it's still all ANSI art and everything, but you don't have to do stuff from the command line. I just like to. I think it's part of the experience. And I love how versatile this thing ended up being. The fact that I can run pretty much any MS-DOS game that I want on it. I can run Windows 3.1. I can run all of that old multimedia software like Encarta. I think I have a Microsoft Home gardening thing, although I don't know if that runs on Windows 3.1. That might be Windows 95 and up. That being said, I've even seen videos on YouTube where people have set up Dosbian and then have been able to install Windows 95 and get this kind of setup running Windows 95 as well if you want to go that route. I'm not sure how the performance is, but it works apparently. So before I wrap things up talking about this whole setup, I wanted to show it in kind of an alternate setup. So this is the same case paired with a much bigger modern monitor. And something interesting that you can do with this kind of setup is you can pair it with some old school PC speakers. The Raspberry Pi has a 3.5 millimeter jack on the back. And if you're in a situation like this where this monitor doesn't have speakers, you can just plug in speakers to those and use the Raspy config program to have it route the audio out that jack instead. And then you can pair it with some old school LabTech speakers like I've done here. So I think this is where I'm going to wrap up my look at my DOS PC gaming mini classic console thingy. I really need to think of something to call this. But this video was meant to be more of a what you can do and not so much a how to. So I will leave links down in the description where to download the Dosbian software, and also there's a really nice quick start guide that I'll leave a link to. And you can have this up and running on a Raspberry Pi that you have laying around really quickly and have yourself playing some awesome DOS games. But in the meantime, I think I'm going to check out Biomenace because I haven't played this game in ages. As always, everyone, thanks for watching. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this kind of rambling video on old PC DOS gaming. If you enjoyed it, let me know because I have lots of other actual old computer stuff I can do videos on. And also, if you haven't checked out my main channel, the Retail Archaeology channel, there's a link to that right there on the screen. Thanks again for watching, everyone.